In the previous film, we saw how the University of Kent was established to help foster collaboration between different disciplines. And we saw how academics from across those different disciplines came up with innovative courses that helped to make Kent's mark on the academic world. But how does interdisciplinary research happen nowadays? How does it work when researchers from one discipline collaborate with researchers from another? The Jarman Building has been the home of one of the university's most successful interdisciplinary research projects of recent years, and we're going to find out about it now. Imagining Autism was an AHRC-funded interdisciplinary collaboration between drama, psychology and the Tizard Centre here at Kent. The project investigated the potential of drama to be used as an intervention for autism to help facilitate communication, social interaction and imagination. The academics involved took this tent, or pod, into schools to create the most wonderful, fantastical worlds. These worlds delighted the children taking part, but the collaboration itself represented a considerable challenge to the academics working on the project.
It is very complex when you are working with different vocabularies. You have different understandings of the same terms.
So my language tends to be a bit dry and mechanistic, and their language tends to be a bit more expansive, but at the same time a bit too woolly.
When David talks about blinding, when he first talked about blinding, I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. I imagined psychologists going around with blinkers on their eyes until it had to be explained to me what this meant.
There was a difference in that the need for scientific rigour in what we did, so that we could show to the scientific community that it was a well done evaluation, did mean that there were quite a lot of differences between what we might want to do and what Nikki and Melissa might think that they needed to do from their perspective as well.
Yeah, I think I was perhaps overconfident that we would get the results. Thank God we did get the results, but I think Nikki was always a little bit more aware, perhaps, yeah, of the dangers. It doesn't matter in art so much, you see. If you don't get the results, you've still got an awful lot to write about.
Departure imminent. Good morning. Welcome aboard the SS Gulbenkian. Departure imminent. Destination space.
What we were doing were using drama workshops and multisensory immersive environments, taking our pod, which was a black tent, into schools and working with children for 10 45-minute sessions using intensive interaction. We had 5 themed environments, 5 scenes if you like, and each week we would do a different scene, and the scenes were forest, underwater, Arctic, space, under the city.
Okay, you ready on the controls, Jamie? Okay.
Rocket booster. Brace. 5, 4, 3.
Generally, forest or space would be our introductory environment, but frequently forest because it's gentle, non-threatening, a pastoral scene with a woodpecker and various woodland creatures. I would get to know the children, and out of getting to know the children, I might decide whether I felt we should start with forest or whether we might start with space. In our higher functioning school, we felt it might be more appropriate to start with space. So, you know, we make decisions based on the children. And I decided in our final school that I wanted the Arctic environment to end it because we're finishing in December, so it seemed nice to end with a white environment.
I suppose as drama people, you think, well, of course you're going to do Arctic before Christmas, you know, it's just obvious, isn't it?
The fact there wasn't an order soon came to the attention of the order-loving scientists.
I didn't discover until very late on, when I was trying to suggest some videos from the pod to watch for scientific coding purposes. And I said, well, let's take 1, 6 and 10 on the basis of the first and the last and the second presentation of the first one, to find that actually that's not what had been done. And of course that was an example of that in terms of that Nikki and the team hadn't actually understood or realised, and no reason why they should if I hadn't have told them, what I thought was important in terms of the being able to match the sessions.
Just weren't thinking along the lines that psychologists think about, which is these controls and trying to cut out the any extraneous elements that might alter, you know, that you don't want to put too much in, you've got to keep as much the same as possible. And I'm sure from their point of view, they probably didn't really realise how different the intervention would be. Like you do forest in 1 week and then 5 weeks later we repeat it. Of course it's going to be different. You know, not only are the children responding differently, but you've got to put extra, you know, new stuff in to keep them entertained and engaged. So it's not a kind of laboratory that you can control the conditions.
The researchers working on Imagining Autism had to confront a difference in language and a difference in how they perceived the workshop should be run. And they also speak about the project in different ways when it comes to summarising the results.
We were able to demonstrate that drama had had a positive impact on the key areas of difficulty that children with autism have in the areas of communication, social interaction and social imagination. So we made a difference to some of those children's lives. Some of them we made a big difference to, and we have testimonials from one parent in particular who felt the intervention was transformative, and so that has to be, from my perspective, one of the most impactful and exciting things about the project.
Kieran, in the first few weeks at school, wouldn't go into any of the lessons. He definitely wouldn't go into food tech, and he definitely wouldn't go into art, that's for sure. And he would sit outside in the corridor. But now, I sent them a DVD clip yesterday where Kieran was making gingerbread man, and he was putting icing on the cakes. I mean, all I can say to you is, from where he was, you know, 8 months ago, to where he is now, it is like a little miracle that's happened, and I can't thank you enough.
We really put as much into the study as we could in terms of assessment, largely because we didn't know if there was an effect, where it was going to lie. So you cast the net wide and include as much as you can and see what registers change. So we got a lot of data, but it's preliminary in nature. So accordingly, it's suggestive rather than, you know, cast iron or confirmatory. But it's sufficient to take us to the next stage. It's sufficient to justify a more formal, larger scale trial now to really incorporate more of those scientific conventions that will be needed to persuade others in the field that what we've done is valuable and reliable.
It seems that everyone is agreed that it was a successful project. But what conclusions have these academics come to about working with another discipline? Is it something that they would repeat, or is it a case of never again?
It does take, I think, quite a bit of effort, maybe, because, I mean, obviously, if you get the right people, Julie and David, they'll meet you halfway and you meet them. In other words, there has to be an effort on both sides to understand the very different languages that you're speaking. But obviously, it opens up so many doors as well. And it's certainly enriched my work, no end.
One of the things I've really enjoyed has been that opportunity to meet a whole new field of people who are actually much more like me than I thought existed, in particularly that field of people who are working in the performance and the cognitive neuroscientist kind of area. So through Nikki and Melissa, and through the getting involved in the Imagining Autism project, and then the extensions of that, there's been seminars here and seminars in London, and I've gone along to those, partly to present and discuss Imagining Autism. But the benefit has been that I've met people from all over the world who, although have come from a drama and performance or music or dance perspective, actually think in the same way as I do.
Psychologists will try to produce experiments in controlled environments, reducing things to as simple a level as possible so that they can accurately test a behaviour or whether an intervention is going to be effective or not. And I fully understand that, and often they will test on animals first of all as well. But ultimately, their broader objective is to understand more about human behaviour. And what we have in performance is a way of accessing those hard-to-reach areas of human experience. So when psychologists and neuroscientists are talking about emotion and empathy and imagination and even perception and cognition, we have the tools to facilitate access to those areas of experience and behaviour, because performance is perfectly suited to exploring embodied cognition.
It's made me realise that if you want to really push an intervention through to application, you've got to get buy-in from a broad range of people that span that arts and science divide. You've got to have, in this case, educationalists, you've got to have clinicians, you've got to have policymakers, you've got to have scientists, allied health professionals. There's such a wide range of people that need to buy in to interventions like this for them to get off the ground. And to do that, you've got to have an interdisciplinary team, that speak multiple languages, that appeal to each of these people in the audience.
Imagining Autism is just one example of the interdisciplinary work carried out here at the University of Kent. It illustrates some of the benefits involved in such a collaboration and also some of the challenges. In the next film, we'll be looking at opportunities for further interdisciplinary work here at the university, and we'll be looking at ways in which we're trying to harness them.